Hello, how are you guys? I believe you guys are doing fine. All right, I've been seeing some clips. I want to give a reaction to these uh, clips I've been seeing on videos on YouTube, Facebooks. People are saying Obi or nothing. I try to say, let me find out what is going on. Why are they saying Obi or nothing? Because I haven't really uh, thought about it to know exactly what is going on. Why they are saying Obi or nothing. So um, I said, okay, I'm going to make a reaction to it because I'm going to argue for and against why Obi or nothing might be positive and at the same time might be negative. All right. So I'm going to give a reaction to for and against to that particular sentences. Now, Obi or nothing, the case for and against the slogan. There is a growing sentiment among supporters of Peter Obi and Rabi Okonkwo that the message going into 2027 should be simple Obi or nothing. But before Nigerians turn that slogan into an absolutely political doctrine, we need to ask a more important question. Is Obi or nothing the best strategy for Nigeria? Or could it unintentionally become the very thing that helps the ruling party remain in power? Let us look at both sides honestly. That's why I'm going to argue for both and against. Why some supporters say Obi or nothing? Why? For many Obi supporters, this is not simply about personality. They believe Peter Obi represents a political alternative built around competence, accountability, economic discipline, production rather than consumption, and a departure from the traditional political establishment. They also remember 2023. Now, the opposition vote was divided among Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and others. The result was that no opposition candidate commanded the combined support of Nigerians who wanted an alternative government. That's from my own understanding. And that experience explains why many Obidians are suspicious whenever another mega coalition suddenly emerges. Their fear is straightforward. What happens if Obi enters another coalition, sacrifices his political platform, and eventually discovers that the arrangement was structured around someone else becoming the presidential candidate? That's the question. That concern cannot simply be dismissed. Indeed, earlier report indicated that Obi and Kwankwaso had concerns about Atiku's influence within the ADC coalition structure in the beginning. And today, the political mathematics is even more complicated. Atiku is pursuing his own political ambition. Okay, Obi has his own mandate and supporters. Kwankwaso has a substantial northern political base, and various opposition groups are again calling on them to produce a single candidate. So when supporters say we will not allow Peter Obi to be used to strengthen another candidate, that is the legitimate political concern. But here is where Obi or nothing can become a problem. Please, Nigeria's presidential election is not won by enthusiasm or social media. I've emphasized this line several times in my video. It is won through votes, organization, polling unit structures, voter registrations, turnout, coalition building, and an ability to protect vote across the country. Protecting vote across the country is the vulnerability that I see Obi and Kwankwaso will get. That means supporters must be careful. If Obi or nothing means Peter Obi must never negotiate with anybody under any circumstances, then the slogan could become a political counterproductive. Because politics is negotiation. If Obi can negotiate a coalition that guarantees a credible presidential ticket, protect his supporters, expand his national reach, and gives Nigeria a realistic path to defeating the incumbent refusing such an arrogant, arrangement simply because another politician is involved may amount to putting loyalty above strategy. Okay, and that will be dangerous. I want you guys to follow my line of argument. The real question is not Obi or Atiku. The real question should be who has the best plan to rescue Nigeria and what coalition can actually deliver it. If a coalition wants Obi to step aside, Nigerians deserve to know why. That is a legitimate question. If the argument is that another candidate has a better chance of winning, then show the evidence. If the argument is that Obi supporters should surrender the political platform for another candidate, then explain what Obi and his supporters receive in return. If the proposal is genuinely about saving Nigeria rather than satisfying individual political ambitions, then everything should be placed on the table for discussion. Who will be the presidential candidate? Who will be the running mate? What is the power sharing arrangement? What happens after victory? What economic program will be implemented? How will corruption be tackled? How will insecurity be confronted? How will the electoral process be protected? What happens to the political structure of the participating parties? And most importantly, what happens if the arrangement is broken? These are the questions Nigeria should demand answers to. And what about the trap theory? Because there are a lot of rumors going around the street that this is a trap for Obi. This coalition discussion is a trap. Since the first trap when he was in ADC did not work, he escaped it, so they modeled another trap to lure him out or for him to step down or confuse his candidacy in NDC. So what about the trap theory? We should be very careful here. It is, perfectly reasonable to suspect political maneuvering. If it is not reasonable to declare a conspiracy proven without evidence, we have to be very careful. There have been genuine attempts to create a single opposition front, and there have also been disagreement over who should lead it. Now, recent reports show that Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, and other opposition figures remain part of the wider conversations about opposition unity. Therefore, supporters should not allow rumors to replace evidence. Don't say the coalition is definitely a trap. Ask instead, what safeguards are being proposed to ensure that no candidate is manipulated, marginalized, or betrayed? That is a much stronger question. There's also an important development supporters should not ignore. Peter Obi and Rabi Kwankwaso are not currently merely talking about cooperation. Kwankwaso has publicly described himself as Obi running mate under the NDC, and he has said the two reach an understanding concerning a single presidential term for Obi. Okay? That was said in the national media. That changes the conversation. That changes the conversation and must be discussed and tackled. The Obi-Kwankwaso alliance is already a political project. So the question is no longer simply whether Obi should cooperate with Kwankwaso. The question is, can the alliance expand without losing its identity? That is where strategy becomes more important than emotions. Obi or nothing should mean something different. Perhaps the slogan should not mean Obi must win or we don't care what happens to Nigeria. Instead, it should mean we will support Peter Obi's candidacy unless another arrangement demonstrably produces a stronger and more credible and transparent pathway to rescue Nigeria. Okay? That is much more defensible position. It tells politicians several things. You cannot simply ask millions of Nigerians to abandon their preferred candidate because you have decided to create another coalition. That's unattainable. Okay? But it also tells supporters one thing. We are not blind followers. We are Nigerians first. Okay? Now, to Obi supporters, let me address you guys here. Okay? To Obi supporters, my page is all about analyzing issues for and against. To Obi supporters, do not surrender your political leverage cheaply. Do not allow anyone to tell you that supporting Obi means you are against Nigeria. And this goes to also Kwankwasia group supporters. But equally, do not allow anybody to convince you that every politician who wants cooperations with Obi is automatically an enemy. Demand transparency, demand reaching agreements, demand a credible selection process, demand a clear program for governance, okay, demand accountability, okay, and also, above all, follow the interests of Nigeria, not merely the interests of any politician. Now, let me address the Atiku supporters also. Okay? Let me address them also. The same standard must apply if you are an Atiku supporter. If Atiku believes he is the strongest candidate, let the argument be based on evidence, national acceptability, political structure, competence, electability, not entitlement. Nobody should be asking Obi supporters to surrender simply because Atiku has contested before, or because he's a former vice president. And nobody should be asking Atiku supporters to surrender simply because Obi has a passionate youth movement. Nigeria is bigger than both men. To Kwankwaso supporters, the same principles apply. The strength of Kwankwasia, not a political base, could be enormously important to any opposition strategy. That is one gateway to winning that election. But political strength should be used to build a winning national coalition, not to impose one man's ambition to another. The Obi-Kwankwaso alliance has the potential to bring together political constituencies that were previously separated. Kwankwaso himself has argued that a combination of the Obedient and Kwankwasia movement could be politically powerful. That is what we term handshake across the Niger. The 2027, no ticket can be matched. Okay? No ticket can match Obi Kwankwaso or Kwankwaso Lukman Abdul Malik. Now, Senator Obi Kwankwaso, the vice presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress, has described that this ticket, nobody can match it. That opportunity should not be destroyed by unnecessary rivalry. Now, friends, my bottom line to this argument, Obi or nothing is understandably a warning. It becomes dangerous when it becomes an excuse for political blindness. Peter Obi should not be expected to step aside merely because a coalition wants him to. But Peter Obi should also not reject every possible coalition simply because it includes Atiku or another opposition party. The standard should be very, very simple. Who can give Nigerians the strongest, most credible, and most transparent pathway to better governance? If Obi is that candidate, then let the coalition prove otherwise. If another candidate is genuinely stronger, let the case be demonstrated openly. No secret deals, no backroom deals, no political ambush, no betrayers, no manipulations of supporters, no trust us politics. Okay? No candidate should be asked to surrender his mandate without a clear, verifiable, and mutually beneficial agreement. And perhaps the most important thing and the most important message to all of us is this: Nigeria cannot afford another election where opposition votes are divided simply because opposition leaders could not agree. All right? My allergies are disturbing me, so pardon me for that. But Nigerians also cannot afford a coalition where Nigerians are asked to unite first and discover the real agenda later. That is suicidal. So yes, stand for Obi if you believe Obi is the best choice. But don't make that mistake of saying Obi or nothing. Make the strongest statement, stand by it, defend it, convince it, and portray it. Nigeria first, Obi, if he is the best part, coalition, if it is genuinely serve Nigeria and no politician gets a blank check. That is not weakness. Let me repeat it again. Nigerian force. Obi, if he is the best part, coalition, if it is genuinely serves Nigeria and no politicians get a blank check. That is not weakness. That is political maturity. That is political maturity. So, Obi or nothing slogan should be carefully portrayed, carefully explained, and carefully delivered. Misconstruction can send a wrong message to other coalition parties. But make sure that whatever coalition is going to be meant for must be clearly discussed, agreed, and written. I rest my case.